I was downtown Memphis one day and walking past the music store, and they had just come out with the ES-295. It was full-blown Gibson, but it was gold colored and all the hardware was gold, and I said, gotta have it.
I first heard Elvis's Heartbreak Hotel. Well, since my baby left me, and that, you know, that Scotty Moore like that. And then the piano takes over. Well, I had to get an electric guitar.
It's probably one of the most simpler things I ever played, really. It was just then I just walking bass behind, but not heavy, behind the bass.
Without that trio behind Elvis Presley playing the way they played, oh, God, that music was just absolutely phenomenal. The arrangements were great, the tightness of that band, that walking bass and the ching 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 ding 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 ding. They were just right on top of it.
You could die.
Scotty Moore was just one of the, you know, it was just one of those great guitar players. I just knew exactly how to put the right guitar section in, so it gave the song that boost. And that's probably why guys like Scotty Moore don't have to do extended guitar solos, because they make their statement within the framework of the song.
Yeah, the song is king. The song, you know, it's like, I'm not king, the song is king. So you try to do the best with that song, and if you can make a good solo, great. If you can make a one-note solo, and it fits the song, bingo.
You're trying to sell that record, and I couldn't see doing something that somebody's already heard by somebody else. If I wasn't doing something that was a little bit different, that fit the song, and also the people might like, I thought would be a better chance.
Scotty Moore, I don't know if Scotty Moore realizes how important he was for Elvis, and indirectly for the Beatles and any Rolling Stones, etc. as well. A guy like Scotty Moore, who played a certain style of guitar for Elvis in the very early days and changed the world.
I knew Scotty Moore had a lot of patience. Bill Black was the best upright bass, slap bass player. And I didn't want a bunch of people with Elvis, because Elvis, especially, I mean, you had to know him at that time. The fewer people you could have working with him in the studio that would get to understand him, and he wouldn't be quite so frightened.
It's a little small anteroom there at the front office, and then you walk into the studio, which is has a fairly high ceiling, and then the control room is in the back, and it's always cluttered, all kind of equipment and such. First time we was in there with Elvis, we all sat fairly close to each other. I guess was probably in about that same spot on everything else we did at Sun. It's just where we were. Not very impressive, except for the name.
I would sit and listen and listen and listen and try to copy Scotty's stuff off of those records, and then I would record myself playing with the Silvertone. I had a Silvertone guitar by that time. He really was one of the first influences, that and listening to B.B. King on WLAC out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, the beginning, I guess I must have been about 6 or 7 years old, something like that. My mother used to take me to the church, and my pastor played guitar. So I grew up wanting to be a preacher like him, play guitar like him. And when I got to be a teenager, I used to sit on the street corners there in Indianola, Mississippi, and play with my home. And when I would play gospel songs, people would always praise me, pat me on the head and shoulders and say, that's fine. I'm a pretty big guy, so it just seemed to just fit right there. And it's got a slim neck on it, long, slim neck. And I don't have the largest hands, but it's just right for my hand.
There is the best example, I think, of a man really complimenting himself whenever he sings and plays music.
The thrill is gone, baby. I'm not really well read, so if I want to say something, I can say it much better through the guitar.
He was at a show in Oakland, and I didn't know he was there. And I did my show, and in the show I played 3:30 Blues. I was backstage in my dressing room after the show, and this nicely dressed, nice-looking black man walked in and said, "Duane, I love those blues you played." He says, "In fact, I loved it so much, I got to give you a hug." And he comes over and he gives me a hug, you know. And he says, "I loved it so much, I got to kiss you on the cheek." And he kisses me on the cheek. And then he steps back and he says, "Oh," he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself, did I?" He says, "I'm B.B. King." I said, "Oh, my Lord." I says, "Now it's my turn to hug you and give you a kiss on the cheek."
All of the guys that was playing at that time was learning. It was sort of like going to a school of training. And I think that was the good part for all of us. People ask me, do you have to pick cotton or plow mules or go to the Delta, Mississippi to play blues? No, you do not. But if you did, it helps.
Gibson instruments have been around since 1894. By the 50s, Gibson is a traditional company in comparison with some of the other guitar makers on the scene. I believe that the philosophy was to make an electric solid body that was as close to, or that incorporated a lot of traditional Gibson elements into it.
If you look at a guitar binding and you go in the factory, you'll see people wrapping the guitars with cord, which is the way luthiers or medieval craftspeople did it for centuries.
So, other than the lack of obvious F-holes, the shape of the Les Paul in 1952 was essentially the shape of a guitar.